Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we've got NBA best bets here on Thursday for you guys. Much smaller slate than we had there on Wednesday with that 11-gamer. So we'll be taking a look at some best bets and the sides and totals is what I'm trying to say here in this episode. Also have player props up in a separate episode. So make sure to subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. Get all the NBA action we're bringing you for the rest of this season and obviously into the postseason. A little better in the player props last night than the best bets for sure. 3-1 inverse there on the best bets. So we end the night 4-4 total here. But let's pick it up here with the one of the 5 games we have for tonight, Nate.
Yeah, I'm not going to overcomplicate it. Rockets +4 at the Kings. If you give me maybe the hottest team in the league with some points, I'll take it, even if it's on a back-to-back. It's just the Rockets with Amen Thompson playing a key role here are just fantastic. They're 9-2 straight up, 10-0-1 against this number with one push in the last 11 with Amen playing 30-plus minutes. He has an individual +13 net rating. He has just changed their pace. He has unlocked Jalen Green offensively by just being that kind of connective piece. Defensively, he's a very versatile guy to throw at Fox, Monk, whatever. And I mean, Ime has certainly figured out something for DDR because his last 3, even when DeRozan was the man last year with Chicago, right? 17 points a game on 30% shooting his last 3 against the Rockets. Dylan Brooks only 26 minutes last night. Şengün only 26 minutes last night because Jokic was pulled from the lineup. I don't even know why, but that was just fantastic for our one-player prop loss because Russ Westbrook can't do anything without Jokic out there. But yeah, I mean, the Rockets reacted in kind by getting some guys some rest because they were like, okay, this is going to be a much easier win than we anticipated. And therefore, they're now ready to go to Sacramento here. A little bit of a revenge for them. They lost in a kind of a trap spot. They beat OKC on December 1st, then went to Sac and lost. But the previous 3, they had handled the Sacramento Kings team. Again, Ime seems to know how to defend these dudes. They shot 43 and 27% splits for the Kings. They only scored 97 a game against these Rockets in their previous 3 losses. We're just looking at, like, the reason I say don't overcomplicate it, it's the 3rd best team against the spread as a road dog. It's the 5th worst team at home against the spread in the Kings. And while Doug Christie, they got an initial coach boost, this is the way you look at it in the NFL to a degree. Like, eventually you got to jump off that wave and be like, they're going to regress to who they are in terms of personnel, and they're not just going to be all fired up to prove that the old coach was an issue to a degree. Like, the Kings are who we know they are, and the Rockets just do not take nights off, man. I will take the points with the Rockets.
They're so freaking good, man. Yeah, that whole Nuggets game last night was just throw it into a well. It's just done. Like, it didn't matter at all. Jalen Green kept going, and I expect him to stay hot, but this is a better pressure defense on ball for the Kings a bit. Doesn't matter though. Like, I don't trust the Kings right now at all on offense, especially. I mean, Malik Monk is coming back into this thing, and like, I actually think that does help them. I think they're better with Malik on court, but then they just sacrifice the defense on the other side, and that's where Jalen Green, like, if Keon Ellis isn't out there, then I don't really know who's going to limit Jalen Green, who's just a monster right now when he decides that he's going to set himself up with the drive to then get to the 3-point shot. And that's the difference between when he's playing. To me, like, I've watched a good amount of Jalen Green, kind of followed him in AAU, been an elite since then, right? And when he drives to the rim with his big frame and handles, it sets everything else up. And that's what he's been doing. He increased his drives by 5 per game over the last 10 games, Nate, which is something I've been looking at for a while. I loved him yesterday in player props as well, and have been riding that heater with him. And I think that continues tonight. And even if Keon Ellis is out there, then it's just more, sort of stumbling, bumbling kind of offense for the Kings right now. So with you on that, loved getting points for Houston. I was going right there with you, but I'll instead go to another awesome game. Cleveland at OKC, the 2 best teams in the league, 1 and 2 with their records there. I'm going over 232.5. This has been bumped up 1 point from 231.5. Isaiah Hartenstein is out of this game, and that's really the only injury that I think is worth mentioning at this point, because I believe Caruso is going to be out there. Aaron Wig, like anybody who's sometimes out for OKC is good to go. And then for Cleveland, I believe maybe Ty Jerome doesn't play. He's been doubtful and missed a couple games, but other than that, it's everybody out there. So, except for Hartenstein, which is huge because I do think that just means more, even more small ball, right? And maybe we see Jay Will come in for about 20, 25 minutes, but you still have a cap on Jalen Williams with a Y for how much he's going to be playing center. And as a result, they're probably going to be seeing that J Dub at center when we had that like roughly like 3 or 4 games where Chet was out, Hartenstein wasn't back, Jay Will wasn't back, and we saw J Dub playing like small ball 5. We got a lot of Kenrich Williams out there as well, but all that just leads to pace for this Thunder team against Cleveland, who, I mean, maybe they try to bludgeon them. That'll be the interesting thing. That was what sort of made me hesitate for a second, was like, if they do, because the Cavs went big, 2 big lineups against the Thunder in the last win. And that was a big help for them because Donnie Mitchell didn't have it. And really neither did Darius Garland for most of the game. So having the 2 big lineup really helped Cleveland. I could see them going back to that, but man, like there's going to be problems if that's the case. You're going to pull Jared Allen from the basket with somebody. It's going to be if Kenrich Williams is starting and he's out there, stand at the 3-point line. Jay Will, 7'1", whatever he is, also standing up at the 3-point line, pulling guys from the basket, and they're just going to be playing pace and space and go. So I think it's just going to be a volume game for the Thunder at that point. Then you look at the Cavs, for them specifically on the road, much faster, or at least much worse defense, similar style offense, pretty much the same like 101 pace that they're playing at home. But they have a 122 offensive rating on the road versus 120 at home. They're scoring a few more points per game on the road as well because they're giving up a few more points per game. They have 113 defensive rating at the road versus 108 at home. Like they're nasty good at home and just very good on the road. Let's put it that way. But they're going up against another team that can bang with them. So if you look at them in terms of the road stuff, 12-5 to the over, averaging 235 points per game on the road. Granted, you think the Thunder might have a better chance at defending them, and they will be better, and they'll be decent enough at limiting the Thunder, but I don't think so. I think we're going to see a lot of jump shots, which is where this Cavs team is weakest as well, which is why you like the over with a team like the Thunder versus them. They're taking a ton of mid-range with Shai, and then everything works off of that mid-range out to the corners, and that's where they're the weakest for the Cavs, is in that spot up corner kind of catch and shoot. Or if you've got a guy like SGA, you can score from that mid-range one-on-one in the ISO. That's how you handle them, and that's why I think they'll be able to get points in this one.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the Cavs being the driving force here in terms of like tempo, in terms of the way they played against the West, getting like 130 a game to force OKC out of their shell a little bit, and Hartenstein being out is the key here in terms of like OKC having success down low. Cleveland having success down low, forcing OKC again to play those high scoring games because it's just kind of boom bust in terms of the totals here with OKC because they can beat you either way. I'm going to try to thread the needle a little bit more and just say first quarter over. I actually was thinking under for the entire game because with a lot of these elite teams, what you see is a much faster pace in the first quarter and, a real assertiveness to come out and try to maybe take the crowd out. That the Cavs, at least, they've done really well with that on the road lately. 127 offensive rating in the first quarter at a 103.5 pace, averaged 34 points per game in these last 6. They're all against either the West Conference or the revenge spot against the Pacers. I mean, both these teams together are 17-2 in their last first quarters, playing at a 102 pace. And then the Thunder, like you highlighted, I mean, their defense travels on the road. It interestingly, in the first quarter, their defense is much, much worse. 94 on the road, 119 at home in their last 6. So their first big home game, their last big home game actually got to 67 against Boston. Oh, and I should say the total is 57.5, pretty typical quarter total here. So it got 10 over against Boston.
Can I back you up real quick? Are you saying the Thunder score more at home or give up more at home in the first quarter?
Give up more in the first quarter, and then they kind of buckle down late. It has been the trend, and in general, I mean, they score plenty in the first quarter. They just absolutely smack teams sometimes. But 31 plus in 6 straight, 130 offensive rating, 104 pace, and that includes the Boston game that I was alluding to, which then just went hella under. But there was 67 points in that first quarter because Boston too. We looked at in the playoffs a lot last year. It's like they're playing at a 102, 104 pace in the first. By the time we get to the fourth, it's like a 94 pace, and they get bogged down. Last meeting landed on 57 with these Cavs. Cavs couldn't score much down low. And that now with Isaiah Hartenstein out, that should definitely change. Donnie also went 0 for 4 en route to just a stinker of a game. I don't think that'll happen. He seemed to bust his slump last time out with 19 points in the first quarter against the Pacers. And Lou Dort, much tougher matchup for him certainly than those Pacers. But I mean, Donnie can get his. He's only at 4.5 points for this first quarter, juiced way the hell up. But yeah, I think he comes out with intent. I think the Cavs do in general because that's the way you compete with elite teams on the road. And the Thunder, yeah, like you're saying, if they go small ball, like there should be a lot more pace and space here.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm with you on anything here. I think it's interesting too that we try to target the Thunder in the third quarter, and this is the team that can hang with them for sure. That also comes out and kind of lights teams up in the third quarter, which is something I know you've been targeting with the Thunder. This time it's the first quarter and it's the points, and I think that's a savvy find too. If you expect them to both, I mean, I expect the Thunder to come out ripping and roaring, right? Like I think this is what they're geared up for, and why we've sort of just been like noticing that they're going to have this targeted on their schedule, as we know. And the Hartenstein being out with like soreness is almost just like, okay, you're just resting him. It feels like I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's like a tightness, or it's like it's a weird nagging injury that maybe he would play through if it was like a playoff game. So I don't know what to make of that. But the small ball will be an interesting sort of comeback for them in this one. But let me go ahead to this Pacers.
A calf strain for Hartenstein. He's out a week, so it's not
Oh,
just
is he?
general. Yeah.
Gotcha. It said on the thing, it said like a sore Solaris, whatever foot. Yeah.
Soleus is your calf. Yeah, it's what Porzingis tore last year in the playoffs.
Right.
So
I thought it said soreness is a thing. Maybe I read solier as soreness, but either way, let me get over to Detroit and the Pacers. Not a doctor, not a doctor. So what I'm looking at here for the Pistons Pacers -2.5 for the home squad here in Detroit, Michigan. And I mean, you can't expect Hallie to play. I know for a fact that Halliburton's injury is legit. It's that same hammy, whatever the technical Latin term for hamstring is. That's what's hurt for him. And it is something that I think will be the similar sort of process for him to come back, which is like, I'm going to miss a week. I'm going to play a game for 22 minutes. I'm going to play the next game for 18, and then I'm going to be out for another 2 to 3 games. And then I'll be back to test out the hammy again. And that's where we're at, because it's the same injury on the same leg. So he's not playing tonight. Like I couldn't possibly believe that. I thought this would already be doubtful for his tag, but it's still questionable. Got to be on the wrong side of questionable, as we say. Benny Matt's also out. You can't touch a referee, man. It's not that hard. I know you're angry, Benny, but you can't touch a referee. It's the only rule, man. So he's suspended for a game. And now we're talking about them going up with Nemby. It's Nemby's world now. Maybe Nesmith comes back for this one, but I'm not really scared of a Nesmith who relies on his quickness and athleticism and length to play defense. Like that's his calling card. Other than that, he's just in the corner shooting threes and maybe getting some drives. But how healthy is he right now as he's coming back and missed most of this season at this point? So I'm not really worried about him. With and without Halliburton, nothing really this season. Just missed the last game. That was the first one. Had been the pillar of health up until that point, which is why Indy has been surging in the last 17 games, where they're basically the best, I don't know, top 5, easily top 5 in the last 17 games since they really started turning things around and playing like the Pacers. But it's too much that you're missing at this point with Hallie out and Benny Matt's out. The backcourt now at this point, you're still going to see the same amount of TJ McConnell, probably going to get a little bit more Obi, going to get plenty of Andrew Nembhard in this game. He's going to have to run things. And I do love Nembhard's stuff, especially before Halliburton officially gets ruled out. You're going to get some value on that. But for Detroit, also what they've been doing, and I will mention this. The Pacers have been playing an incredible strength of schedule. The Pistons have not. Over the last 10, number one strength of schedule, hardest for the Pacers. For the Pistons, only at about 20th, 22nd, it looks like. So not the same competition, but the health is what I care about, because without Halliburton last season, especially, you're talking about an offensive rating that's 4 points worse. You're talking about a defensive rating that's also 4 points worse. And you're talking about a pace that goes down two possessions per 100 for them, from about 101 to 99 without Halliburton. And that's just the sort of the personality of the Pacers, and how they need to win is off scoring off of that fast break. They've upped their transition game to the third most frequent amount of transition plays and possessions that they're putting up here in the last 15 games as well. So that's what I mean by coming back to playing Pacers ball. That's all Halliburton. That's led by Halliburton, with a bit of, the other guys that play fast, like Benny Matz and Obi Toppin. Those are the 3 fastest guys on their squad. 2 of them aren't there. So if you like an under in this game, I know we had mentioned that as a pretty good price probably as well for you, if you'd rather go that route. But I do think that the Pistons at home have been enough of a wagon, essentially, to be able to hang or beat this team and hang with the really good teams when they're in Detroit as well.
Yeah, definitely lean. Yeah, lean Pistons, lean under, like you're saying, because the Pacers missing two really key cogs of their pace and space offense. And yeah, just the Pistons are not to be trifled with right now, man. They know their roles. They have good veterans surrounding Cade. They rebound extremely well, and they should match up pretty well here against this Pacers squad. And interesting if Neesmith plays or not. I think Cade completely goes off if Neesmith's not out there to deal with
Yeah.
him because the Pacers' point of attack defense is better with Nemhard playing more minutes, but it's not. They're not slowing him down. So I would lean under maybe if both Neesmith and Nemhard are in there, and think maybe this is a little bit more of a slugfest.
Yeah, suspect at best. And not an apology to JB Bickerstaff, but I was also thinking about how we were like, why doesn't Jalen Duren play 30 to 35 minutes? And in the game that we said that before the last game that they played against the Knicks, he had like 4 fouls at the very beginning of the third quarter. We're like, oh, right, that's why you can't always play Jalen Duren 35 minutes. But we'll see how he does tonight against Miles Turner. I don't expect many fouls against a guy shooting a lot of threes. So that's all the time we have for you, though, in this one. Also have player props up in a separate episode. So make sure to subscribe to that page. Give that video a like. Until we see you next, happy betting.